Have you ever wondered how to transform your weaknesses into strengths? It's a question that many of us ask ourselves, and the good news is, it's possible. Yes, every single one of us has weaknesses. That's a fact. But it's not something to be ashamed of or to hide away. It's the very essence of being human, and it makes us who we are. You see, the key to turning weaknesses into strengths lies in self-awareness. Self-awareness is that little voice inside of you that whispers, "Hey, you're not so great at this." It's about recognizing and understanding those areas where you may not be as strong as you'd like to be. But it's not about self-criticism. It's about self-improvement. Think about it this way. If you don't know where you're starting from, how can you possibly know where you're going? Recognizing our weaknesses is the first step on the journey to turning them into strengths. It's about laying the groundwork, setting the foundation, and preparing to build something better. But self-awareness isn't just about acknowledging our weaknesses. It's also about understanding our strengths. It's about recognizing what we're good at, what we excel at, and what makes us unique. Because when we understand our strengths, we can use them to help us overcome our weaknesses. Now let's talk about the concept of turning weaknesses into strengths. It might sound like a magic trick, but it's not. It's all about mindset and approach. It's about seeing a weakness not as a barrier, but as a challenge to overcome. It's about seeing a weakness not as a failure, but as an opportunity to learn, grow, and improve. So how does one turn a weakness into a strength? It's not about denying or hiding our weaknesses. It's not about pretending they don't exist. It's about acknowledging them, examining them, and then working on them, one step at a time. Remember, it's a process. It's a journey. It's not something that happens overnight. But with patience, persistence, and a little bit of grit, we can turn our weaknesses into strengths. So, how does one turn a weakness into a strength? Let's dive into it. Step 1 begins with acknowledging your weaknesses. Now, this might sound a bit daunting, but it's actually a crucial step in personal growth and development. You see, it's only when we are honest with ourselves about our shortcomings can we truly begin to address them. Think about it like this. Imagine you're sailing a ship. If you don't acknowledge that there's a hole in your vessel, you'll just keep taking on water until you sink. But if you identify the problem, you can patch the hole and continue sailing smoothly. In much the same way, our weaknesses are those holes that need to be acknowledged and addressed. Let's take the example of Michael Jordan. Yes, the basketball legend himself. Now, you may find it hard to believe, but Jordan was actually cut from his high school basketball team because he was deemed not good enough. But did he let this setback define him? Absolutely not. Instead, he used it as motivation to improve. He acknowledged his weaknesses, put in the hard work, and well, the rest is history. So what can we learn from Michael Jordan's story? That acknowledging your weaknesses is not a sign of failure, but the first step towards success. Remember, we all have weaknesses. It's a part of being human, and there's no shame in that. What matters is how we handle these weaknesses. Do we ignore them, letting them hold us back? Or do we acknowledge them, using them as a catalyst for growth and improvement? Honesty and self-reflection are key in this process. It's about taking a good, hard look at yourself and identifying those areas where you could do better. Is it public speaking, time management? Maybe you struggle with being too critical of yourself or others. Whatever it is, don't shy away from it. Embrace it and take it as an opportunity to grow. Remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about being a better version of yourself than you were yesterday. Once we acknowledge our weaknesses, we can start working on them. Remember, every weakness is an opportunity in disguise. So let's seize these opportunities and turn them into our strengths. Step 2 is about understanding your weaknesses. It's often said that knowledge is power, and this couldn't ring truer when it comes to understanding our own weaknesses. When we recognize and comprehend our weaknesses, we are taking the first crucial step towards turning them into strengths. Consider Albert Einstein, a man whose name is synonymous with genius. Yet he struggled with traditional learning environments. He found school rigid and stifling, with little room for creative and independent thought. But did this make him any less intelligent? Quite the contrary. Einstein's struggles with conventional learning led him to cultivate his independent thinking, a trait that later became his greatest strength and led him to the groundbreaking theory of relativity. Just like Einstein, we must delve deeply into the nature of our weaknesses. We should ask ourselves probing questions. What makes this a weakness for me? Is it a lack of skill, a lack of interest, or perhaps a fear? Understanding the root cause of our weaknesses allows us to devise a plan to overcome them. For example, if a teacher struggles with public speaking, they may realize that the root cause is anxiety or fear of judgment. Understanding this, they can then explore ways to manage their anxiety or build confidence, thereby turning their weakness into strength. It's also important to remember that our weaknesses are not inherently negative. They are simply areas where we have room for improvement. And sometimes they can even be a blessing in disguise, pushing us to develop skills and strengths we may not have otherwise discovered. In the grand scheme of things, weaknesses are just another aspect of our human nature. They are part and parcel of who we are. But with understanding, we can harness their power and use them as stepping stones towards becoming better versions of ourselves. So, let's embrace our weaknesses, understand them, and strategize on how to overcome them. Because in the wise words of Albert Einstein, in the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. Understanding our weaknesses helps us strategize on how to turn them into strengths. Step 3 involves developing a growth mindset. Picture Thomas Edison, the man who invented the light bulb. Now imagine him in his workshop, surrounded by hundreds of failed prototypes. Did he view these as a sign of his weakness? No, he saw them as learning opportunities. He famously said, "I have not failed, I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." This is the essence of a growth mindset. A growth mindset is the belief that abilities can be developed and improved through dedication and hard work. It's about loving the process of learning and growing, rather than focusing solely on the outcome. It's about understanding that failure isn't a permanent state, but rather a stepping stone on the path to success. When we embrace a growth mindset, we shift our focus from the fear of making mistakes to the joy of learning and improving. We start to see challenges as opportunities to expand our abilities rather than threats to our ego. We become more resilient, more adaptable, and more open to new experiences. Now let's apply this to our journey of turning weaknesses into strengths. When we encounter a weakness, instead of feeling defeated or ashamed, we can choose to see it as a challenge to overcome. We can choose to see it as an opportunity to grow. For example, if you struggle with public speaking, instead of avoiding it, you can choose to see it as a chance to improve your communication skills. You can seek out opportunities to speak in front of others, practice regularly, and gradually build your confidence. Over time, what was once a weakness can become a strength. Remember, developing a growth mindset isn't a one-time event. It's a lifelong journey of learning, growing, and evolving. It requires patience, persistence, and a healthy dose of self-compassion. But the rewards are well worth the effort. With a growth mindset, every weakness becomes a chance to grow. Step 4 is all about practice and patience. Now, these two words may seem simple, but they are incredibly crucial when it comes to turning your weaknesses into strengths. Let's take a moment to consider the story of an incredibly influential figure, J.K. Rowling. The woman who gave us the magical world of Harry Potter didn't just wake up one day, write a book, and find instant success. No, she faced a multitude of rejections, 12 to be precise, before her manuscript was finally accepted for publication. Imagine if she had given up after the first, second, or even the 10th rejection. We would never have met Harry, Hermione, and Ron. We would never have stepped foot in Hogwarts. But Rowling was patient. She practiced her craft, honed her storytelling, and continued to submit her work despite the rejections. This is where patience comes in. It's not just about waiting. It's about enduring the tough times, the rejections, and the failures, remaining steadfast in your belief that you can and will improve. It's about not giving up when things get tough. Then there's practice. Practice is about continually working on your weaknesses, refining your skills, and learning from your mistakes. It's about recognizing that improvement doesn't happen overnight and committing to the journey, no matter how long it takes. Rolling's story is a testament to the power of practice and patience. It's proof that with persistence and the right mindset, you can turn your weaknesses into strengths. But remember, just as you wouldn't expect to run a marathon without training, you can't expect to overcome your weaknesses without putting in the time and effort. So, take a page from Rolling's book, pun intended. Embrace your weaknesses, work on them, and give yourself the time to grow and improve. Remember, Rome wasn't built in a day. Practice and patience are key. And just like that magnificent city, your strengths can be built brick by brick with a foundation of patience and the mortar of practice. Finally, step 5 is about seeking help when needed. You know, none of us are islands. We all exist as part of a larger community, a wider ecosystem of knowledge and experience. And it's in this ecosystem that we can find invaluable resources and support to help us turn our weaknesses into strengths. Consider the story of Bill Gates, the co-founder of the tech giant Microsoft. Gates is a hugely successful figure in the world of business and technology, but he didn't achieve all of his success alone. Throughout his career, Gates has consistently highlighted the importance of seeking and valuing advice from others, especially his mentors. He has often credited his mentors for providing him with the insights and perspectives that he needed to navigate the challenges he faced. They offered him advice, they asked him tough questions, and they helped him to see things from different angles. And all of this guidance played a pivotal role in shaping his approach to his weaknesses and turning them into strengths. So what does this mean for you? It means that seeking help when you need it is not a sign of weakness, but a mark of strength. It's a recognition that you are committed to personal growth and development. It's an acknowledgement that you are open to learning and evolving. When you're working on turning your weaknesses into strengths, don't be afraid to reach out to others for advice, guidance, or simply a fresh perspective. This could be a teacher, a coach, a mentor, or even a friend or family member. The important thing is to be open to their insights and to be willing to learn from their experiences. Remember, turning weaknesses into strengths is a journey, not a destination. It's a process of continuous learning and growth. And along this journey, you'll find that the wisdom and guidance of others are some of the most valuable resources you can have. So, as we conclude this section, I want you to remember this. Don't be afraid to ask for help. We all need a little guidance sometimes. Embrace this truth and let it empower you on your journey of turning weaknesses into strengths. Before we wrap up, remember to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification button. Don't miss out on the tools you need to master your own narrative. Let's circle back to the journey we've embarked on together. We've explored the power within you, acknowledged your weaknesses, and sought to understand them. We've talked about developing a growth mindset, the importance of practice and patience, and the need to seek help when necessary. Remember, these steps aren't linear, but rather they are cyclical. They overlap, intertwine, and repeat. Each time you go through them, you'll discover something new about yourself, and you'll be better equipped to turn your weaknesses into strengths. The key to all this? Perseverance. It's not about how fast you can transform your weaknesses. It's about how committed you are to the process. It's about staying the course, even when it feels like you're not making progress. It's about understanding that setbacks are not roadblocks, but rather stepping stones to your success. Consider the story of Thomas Edison. He once said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." He didn't view his attempts as failures, but as steps on the path to success. His perseverance led to the invention of the light bulb, forever changing our world. Your journey might not be as dramatic as Edison's, but it's just as important. Every step you take towards transforming your weaknesses into strengths brings you closer to becoming the best version of yourself. You're not defined by your weaknesses, they are simply areas of growth. Each one is an opportunity to learn, to improve, and to become stronger. As Winston Churchill once said, "Success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts." So, go out there, Face your weaknesses and turn them into your strengths. Share this video with someone who might need it. Always remember, your weaknesses are just strengths waiting to happen.